So it has a Brew. And the lighting in here is absolutely terrible because I was supposed to film this earlier and I couldn't be bothered to get out of bed, and the boyfriend couldn't get out of bed, who's actually off frame at the moment doing some weird bizarre shit, I'm not too sure what, and he's giving me evils. So I thought I'd talk about CES 2016 because I didn't manage to go this year, although I was invited again this year. Last year I managed to get myself an industry pass. This year I was actually invited to go along as a member of the press, but I had to kind of turn that down because I couldn't really afford to do it, and it was also quite it was sort of a bit late in the day, and I was like, well, like it was sort of around September time and EJX was happening, so by the time money came on, because I still had to pay for flights and hotel and all that other kind of stuff, I was like, nah, no. It was a little bit annoying because if I had the money I would have gone and it would have been good. The problem would have been is getting somebody out there to film with me, which would have been difficult, but yeah, I might try and go next year, but to be honest, this year's kind of been a bit shit, I think, in terms of the actual new tech that's kind of come out, so I'm sort of like, I don't know if it's worth even me bothering going. But I thought I'd rattle through some of the bits and pieces that I've sort of picked up on and noticed over the couple of days, things I think are really cool, and that's kind of it. So Ford is adding support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to its vehicles, so this is starting in models labeled 2016. There'll be an option to upgrade to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, and in 2017 there will be the option to choose either Sync 3 or Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So currently any car that has Sync 3 eventually will be able to upgrade, which is kind of cool. Sync 3 is kind of Ford's like funky technology thing that kind of runs on top, a bit like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's really cool, it does some really cool things, and I have to say, I think Ford has kind of done the best. I think Ford, Tesla, and maybe Lexus are kind of the three car companies at the moment that are doing some really, really cool things electronically, and that's kind of really cool. NVIDIA announced the new Drive PX2, which is a, quote, supercomputer in a lunchbox for self-driving cars. NVIDIA claiming it's about as powerful as 150 MacBook Pros. That's kind of cool. It's using two next-gen Tegra processors, and I think it's a Pascal based GPU. Allows it to read over 2,000 images a second to do some really cool self-driving stuff. Super, super cool. Not too sure what the price point is going to be, but damn expensive. They had one previously which was a lot lower spec than that before, a lot cheaper, and it's cool, you know, it's really, really cool. It uses some cloud-based stuff as well to do some machine learning, which is really cool. So that should be coming out in the next year, 2 years. Oculus, obviously you probably saw this news this week, so Oculus is being actually finally released for $499, so that's $499 UK, British pounds, and $599 US dollars. It's actually a lot. It's like, people are saying it's expensive, but I don't think it is expensive. I think for a screen that is theoretically as big as it is, and it's 4K, I mean, you're thinking, how much would a 65-inch 4K TV be? Probably about the same kind of price. I mean, I think it's super cool. It's the fact it's got all this control in it, it's really good. They're actually going to sell it at an at-market value, which is pretty cool. So what it costs for them to make is what they're going to sell it for. The downside is you do need a beastie PC to run it. They're quoting the PC costing about £1,000, so £1,000 PC would be the benchmark. But in terms of actual physical specs, minimum specs are NVIDIA GTX 970 or an AMD 290, and an Intel i5 5990, and also at least get 8 gigs of RAM. My plan over the next couple of months, dependent on funds, is I'm going to build a brand new PC which will have a nice Core i7 in it. Whether or not I go Skylake, whether or not I go Haswell E, I'm not too sure, and maybe a couple of GTX Titans, or and a couple of like SLI Titans, or maybe just a 980 Ti or something like that, and have a really like balls to the wall amazing PC that I can edit on, I can game on, and all that other kind of stuff. Oculus is also going to give original Kickstarter backers the new headset for completely nothing, which is fantastic. So I think it was about 7,000 people that had it, so they're going to give that to them for free, which is great. Garmin released an augmented reality headset, which is kind of basically a copy and paste of the Recon Jet. So they've not really done anything new, but the thing with the Recon was recently bought by Intel, so whether or not they're actually going to use, whether or not they're going to create anything new, I'm not too sure. So the fact that Garmin's doing something is cool, but I don't really know if Garmin's going to do a good enough job. It looks cool, but it's like, well, what is it? How is it different to Google Glass? How is it different to the Recon Jet? Which actually, if I was cycling in London, which I'm currently not doing, I would get the Recon Jet because it would be super handy, but considering I don't want to die a painful death between a cement truck and, I don't know, the pavement, I'm not even going to risk it for a minute. Now, this is something quite cool. Kodak is going to bring back Super 8. If you are a bit of a hipster, or you maybe studied film at college, or maybe you're just old, you might know what Super 8 is. So Super 8 was like a format from 1965, kind of like a tape version. It was kind of really cool, and it's never really sort of died. They officially stopped it in terms of support for it, but it never really died. In terms of the indie space, they still use Super 8, and there's some really, really cool stuff, and obviously Super 8 as a format, it still exists. Kodak are going to release their own version of a Super 8, which is really cool, and it does look really nice, actually. I just want like the case without any of the innards and just spend like next to nothing. But it's going to cost between $400 and $750 US, and it's going to cost you about $50 to actually process the film. Now, I would imagine you could probably process the film yourself if you have a studio and if you have, the equipment desired, but I suspect that's going to be very, very expensive. So you can get the film sent off, and they'll also send you back a digital copy of it as well, which is super cool. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to be something that's going to take off, or whether or not this is going to be something that actually, the indie guys, the old school guys that still want to get involved with the Super 8 are going to actually grab, or whether they're just going to use old vintage cameras and things like that. Currently, Super 8 film is insanely difficult to get hold of, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually start spreading that kind of stuff back up again, to see whether or not people can actually buy it. Apparently Intel's Curie, which we saw last year, will ship in Q1. So Intel showcased this year in their CES keynote. It's basically like a $10 all-seeing, all-dancing kind of gyrometer thing. So you can use it in things like, well, you could use it in a drone, you could use it in bikes, you could use it in pretty much anything you could possibly think of, fashion, whatever, and it will report pitch and G-force and speed and distance and GPS location, like basically anything you could possibly think of, it can record. It's only $10, so in terms of it being part of a wearables thing, it's really cool. It's only the size of a button, so you could show it into bits of clothes, you could have it inbuilt into a bike, you could have all these kind of really, really funky things, and it's all built and all runs through Bluetooth. I think it's Bluetooth 6, which is super low battery power, so you could run this thing for a week and it would be really, really cool. I think what I'd like to see with things like this is bike manufacturers, things like even the likes of Nike, Asics, things like that, embedding these things into shoes where you don't actually have to have a physical thing you have to remove. Currently, Intel's got a deal with ESPN and Red Bull, so they're going to do a funky thing there with the X Games this year, which is kind of cool. So we'll see how well that actually performs. It's going to do things like flight time, force when it lands, things like that. And it does look really cool. It's just be interesting to see how well it performs, considering it's only $10. It's not like it's not a professional grade kind of all singing, all dancing thing. It's super cheap. So we'll see how that goes. Netflix now launched around the world, so this is kind of cool. I noticed this. I think this was a CES release, but if not, it's kind of been bundled into this. So there was 130 new countries added to Netflix, so that means that Netflix is now available in more than 190 countries and also 17 languages, which is super cool. The downside is if you're in China, the Crimea, North Korea or Syria, then you're not going to be able to get it. This is because of limitations in terms of the Chinese being generally awful people to try and work with for that kind of stuff. Crimea, North Korea and Syria, you're not allowed to actually even do business with in the US. So but hey, it basically brings it to everybody in the world, which is super cool. It's good for Netflix because obviously that means they have a bigger market share across the world, and also they get more money. Their share price increased 9% as well when they released announced that, which is kind of cool. So there was this other thing that was kind of it was announced / released / it exists but not quite. EHang 184 human-sized drones just sort of existed to sell EHang's other non-human drones, the smaller drones. It's unlikely to be actually a real thing because it's going to be a lot of money, and I doubt in terms of the development of it's going to be worthwhile them doing, because the amount of people that are actually going to buy it is going to be minimal. I think if they could do a human drone that you could, similar to an Uber, so you call a drone down, that would be cool. It might be, a good thing to be doing. Obviously, links all in the description below, as always, and you can have a proper look at this thing. And the last thing to sort of end on was that federal marshals decided to raid a booth at CES over patent violations. Future Motion, who make the One Wheel, filed a patent infringement indictment against a company called Shangzhou, who released a version of their sort of skateboardy thing for half the price pretty much of the one they were selling it for. So the one wheel is sort of like sort of the thing you just sort of sit on or stand on, and you kind of, it just moves about. It looks really cool. It's kind of similar to something like a boosted board, but not quite. It does look really cool, and I have to say I quite fancy getting one, but considering it's about $1,000 US, I might have to hang fire for that for a minute. I certainly do want to try and get a maybe even just a normal skateboard and learn to skate, because actually in London it would be super handy to be able to do that. It'd be so good to be able to skate from here to work, because it would be so quicker. I don't want to do the whole cycling thing because I don't want to dice with death, but yeah, it would be quite cool. So I think it's pretty much it. I think you know, CES this year has been a bit shit. I'm not like, there's nothing that I'm really excited about. Razer announced this thing called the Blade Stealth, which is kind of cool, and they also paired it up with a thing called the Razer Core. Now the Razer Core is a plug and play external graphics solution. It does look cool. I like the idea. I really do. I don't know how well it's going to work. Certainly for somebody like me, that will be fantastic. It means I can take a laptop on the go with me and video edit and all that kind of stuff, and when I come home I can render it out. So when I'm away at EGX, for instance, I can take just the laptop with me, edit whatever, you know, do that kind of stuff, and then when I come home I can properly balls to the walls, render out, or play games or whatever the hell it is. Now, considering the fact the core is quite small, you can actually pack that into a suitcase. But to be honest, I mean, you're probably not going to get the same sort of performance that you'd expect to get out of a main desktop, mainly because of the fact that the Razer Stealth is going to have a shitty mobile CPU, and the fact that the cooling is going to be crap. So you're not going to push it to the maximum you want to. I mean, it's still a pretty cool laptop, but it's not going to be one of those things that's going to replace your desktop PC. Certainly if you want to get some Haswell E action on, or some Skylake action, and you want to be able to pwn some noobs, or render in 4K or 8K or whatever the hell it is. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for a minute. I am looking at trying to increase or change the visual identity of this kind of platform, this channel, because it's sort of looking dated. I want to upgrade the logo, I want to upgrade everything to do with my channel. If there are any freelance graphic designers out there that are either starting out or are not too expensive, give me a shout. It will be, you know, I will pay for it. That's absolutely fine. I'm not going to get you to do it for free. And exposure, like people fucking decide to do and say, oh, well, my kid can do it, so I'm going to ask somebody else to do it for exposure because they're 16. That's not going to be the case. You know, I appreciate, you know, people to come forwards as our students or whatever, because that means it's cheaper for me to do, because there's no way in hell I can pay £50 an hour for a professional designer. But no, certainly, you know, hit me up if you've got some sort of portfolio again. And if you are, you know, doing studies or something and you want to use, you want to do a case study, or you need to do a portfolio or something like that, I can certainly help you out with that. Plus the obviously commercial benefit of paying some extra money. I'm not too sure how much that's going to be. It'll all depend on YouTube funds and things like that. But hit me up, send me a mail, aaron@azzyjoe.com, and we can set something up, and we can maybe have a Skype call or something like that, and have a quick discussion as to what I want, and that's kind of that. So I think that's pretty much it. So apart from that, I should catch you in a later video. So I has a brew. So after much time, I has a brew. So I'm in a park in the middle of London, which is a bit bizarre. So don't I has a brew. So I has a brew. I want to talk a little bit about pride. So I has a brew. 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 So I don't has a brew. I has a Five Guys. I don't know what the fuck this is.
Me and Aaron are going to probably spend a lot of day now. EGX.
So it's like about 1:30 back in the hotel. The last day of EGX. So EGX at the 18 plus area. So I has a brew. So I has a brew. So I has a brew. So I thought I'd go for a walk Christmas Eve because yeah, that's that. That's how we do that. Boo! Get off the stage! Get off the stage!